So, well, I've got this huge topic today. Buddhism, racism, activism. It's a bit much for an hour and a half. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm. So I've been recently thinking about resilience, about resilience. I think it's the kind of feeling we get uh, if we listen to the blues. Are you with me? This is good for Buddhism, I think, because as I understand the blues, it's about experiencing happiness in the midst of suffering. Mm. You know, it's a kind of sentiment where a song gives a kind of threatening thing or a thing about being so incredibly sad, and then there's a happy note. Blues. So I'm thinking about resilience because you may have heard of this book that's just recently come out called 400 Souls. It's the subtitle is A Community History of African Americans in the US. And it's got 400 voices, poets, performance artists. You should look at this book. It's edited by Blaine and Ken, and Kendi. I'm going to talk about Ibram Kendi later. At any rate, resilience. We're all sitting together and doing this on Zoom because of the pandemic, where we've been told to shelter in place or to isolate and so forth. And we've been doing this for about a year now, a little over maybe. Suddenly something happened and just changed our world. And there are good parts to it and negative parts to it, a lot of them. I remember when schools were about to break for spring break and the students were told not to return. And some of my women students were panicking. I mean, I'm teaching at a women's college, so some of the students were panicking. And I remember at one class saying, but there's some good things. What if we've learned certain things? The sky is getting clearer, right? Because there are less pollutants. Do you remember that the first couple of weeks of this lockdown, you could look up and see more blue sky? There weren't cruise ships spilling the pollution that amounts to 1 million cars. One cruise ship, one day, 1 million cars. That pollution stopped. We found out, I hope, that we could do with far less material things than we had been taught that we needed commercially. You know, we all took stock. What is it we absolutely need? And then if we're fortunate, we could say, wow, and we have it. You know, food, shelter, clothing, right? In other words, just cut down to the basics. So there were some uplifting parts, but that gets old quick, unfortunately. It got old, didn't it? Now, this is where I'm going with this, if you're wondering. Resilience. Imagine for some people in this country, we are, and our ancestors, We're sitting in a country founded with this great dream of liberty and freedom. Can you all hear me? Liberty and freedom for all. Isn't that the dream? That's what we're in pursuit of. And yet some of us were brought here, captured and brought here to work as slaves. And the Native Americans who were here were pushed back and pushed out, slaughtered and killed with disease. I'm thinking about resilience because some of us are still here and can find joy. Still here. Mark Lamont Hill has a little book called, don't remember the name, it's something like that. That's why I connected. Still here. He's having a conversation with a person talking about, since COVID-19, what's happened, the things we've been forced to witness. Resilience. I don't know if you know of the Black woman, she's passed away now, but great, great poet by the name of Lucille Clifton. Lucille Clifton, you should read her. But one of her great poems ends with this summation. And I think of it because Black History Month just passed and a lot of people refer to this poem. It says, "Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed." And Black people cheer. Something has tried to kill me and has failed. That depth of resilience. Joshua Bennett, young performance artist, quotes Lucille Clifton when he starts this great performance piece called "Say It, Sing It." He wrote it in honor of Tamir Rice and Eric Garner, and it's just this wonderful poem, 3 minutes 42 seconds. Please look it up. Joshua Bennett. Nobody can do it like him. Joshua Bennett. Say It, Sing It. The first lines pick up on the Lucille Clifton poem. It's about joy in the midst of suffering. Take a high. So I do that. I say, take a high. And I say, and if I need to explain, I just heard myself do it. I do it a lot. So everything's all right. It's just my way of pausing. So, okay. So I'm thinking a lot about resilience. And as always, I'm thinking about James Baldwin. And as I said at the beginning, there are a lot of subjects to cover here. So I'm trying to give sort of a literary, poetic way of getting into all this stuff. So here we are in America. Red-skinned people, black-skinned people, brown-skinned people. And there seems to be this norm this sort of norm that white folk are superior. Like now we have this heavy duty white supremacy thing okayed by the former president, 45, brought to light by him. It's we need to be resilient. Now, in 1960, James Baldwin is one of my favorite writers. So in 1964, he wrote an essay called The White Problem. And he said, the people who settled the country, this country, had a fatal flaw. They could recognize a man when they saw one. They knew he wasn't anything except a man. But since they were Christian, and since they had already decided that they came here to establish a free country, the only way to justify the role of this chattel was to say that he was not a man. For if he wasn't, then no crime had been committed. That lie, says Baldwin, is the basis of our present trouble. He said in 1964. That's the basis of it. Shantideva Shantideva, the 8th century Buddhist poet, gives us 2 meditation practices to help us see other human beings as equal human beings, just human beings, just merely human beings to human beings. One of the exercises is called exchanging self with others. One could say we already knew about that one. Our parents taught us that, like, well, you put yourself in her shoes, put yourself in his shoes, right? Exchanging self with others. But I've often had occasion to say that it's Shantideva's second method that's really the hardest for us to do. Because that practice calls for us to see ourselves as exactly equal with other human beings, not superior and not inferior to them, but equal. Equal how? Very broad, equal. Buddhists, you hear it all the time. Equal in the sense that we all wish to have happiness and to avoid suffering. Basic common denominator. Every sentient being, let alone every human being, wishes the same thing. In that regard, we are exactly the same. His Holiness says it, we are exactly the same. On this basis, we should work for the benefit of beings. On this basis, we should reckon that no other is superior to us or inferior to us. That's the hard one, right? Inferior to us. Because I, this clinging to self-cherishing that I has so many actual hard conceits with it. We don't just say I. We say it, and Buddhism teaches that from the moment there is I, there is me and mine. From the moment there is I, there is me to be protected, and what belongs to me. And we get that possessiveness from the moment that I arises in the mind. But the other thing that the texts don't talk so much about, and I just saw last night that Bhikkhu and now Analeo has a new book coming out. I don't know when. Wisdom just pointed it out yesterday. And the book is called The Superiority, Superiority Conceit. Huh? Now he's talking about 4 specific things, so women in the Sangha, and but I often teach that I, the subtlest part of it that we aren't taught to confront daily, but I guess in the practice we'll get us there. I'm not saying I got there, but the subtlest part of I is not just me and what belongs to me. It's the feeling that I am better. I'm better than everyone else, than the people I'm talking to, than got the subtle, I'm better. That's a real hard, fast conceit. All right, so if we've got that, I've gone from really broad to really deep inner. If we come with that, how in the world are we ever going to work on systemic racism? Gee whiz. Oh my goodness. Is it possible? Woo. Is it possible to see another human being as another human being equal to ourselves? Equal. Is it possible in this country where people with black skin and brown skin have been taught that they are less than for the 400 years that they've been here toiling, making the capital that undergirds this society? They've been told for 400 years that they're less than. What's going to cause a shift in us that suddenly sees that that's a lie? What's going to cause in them the transformation that they're as good as? This is a tough problem. This is a serious thing. This is going to call for some deep work. Oh. Whew. So again, we're sitting in the midst of at least three pandemics, 3 crises. The pandemic, COVID-19, and yay, Biden, and we're making strides. There are vaccines, might be 4 soon, there are 3. And this has put us all in this amazing headspace where we sort of come in loose ends, we've done well, but it's been over a year. Second crisis, the economic fallout from this virus that sent millions of people home with no work. We can see the disparities, the economic disparities in those people who can work from home and so suffered no disjuncture, Their life goes on, they can manage. Schools, that's a big thing. So it's been a huge economic fallout. Now, look at it. We discovered early on, didn't we? We gave new designations. Certain people became all of a sudden essential, didn't they? All right. Now, who were those people? The ones who drove the trucks to deliver things, the ones who stocked the shelves in the grocery store, the ones that 45 said had to keep working at the meat plants. because we like our meat. Huh? They became essential workers, not only at the hospitals, right? The people who do things for us. Most of those people, weren't they brown? Weren't they brown skinned? I'm just asking you, weren't they? But did we pay them a living wage? They were not only essential, but they were disposable. Didn't matter. If they get sick, doesn't matter. They got sick in huge numbers, right? Because they couldn't work from home. They stopped the grocery store shelves. They see all those people coming at them. And there weren't masks mandated early on. They're essential. They're disposable. We don't have to pay them. This pandemic exposed our dark underbelly. I mean, we have to get real about that. I think we all could see it. And then the third, I said this was kind of a heavy talk right at the beginning, right? Then the third thing that we all witnessed, because we were inside, confined, isolating, quarantining, we were inside, the lucky ones who didn't have to go. You know, those that are retired didn't have to go stock those shelves. You know, that little income. We all became, as a result of that, witnesses to some horrific stuff that goes on in this country. So on May 25th in 2020, we watched the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that Officer Chauvin kept his knee on George Floyd's neck. We watched the slow, brutal, totally uncaring face of Chauvin as he killed a man in front of us with impunity. Certain people's lives don't seem to matter as much. That's the situation. What will make us care for those lives as much as we care for ours? What's the problem? The basic problem, I think Baldwin touched on. We, in order to make this country, and that's what Raoul Peck is doing in the Baldwin movie, I Am Not Your Negro. In order to enslave a people, you have to change your thinking about another human being. And then in order to maintain it, in order to maintain that lie, you also have to buy in deeply to something you know is not true. And that's traumatic. It's traumatic for Black people, and it's traumatic for white people who do it. It's traumatic. How in the world do we heal this? At the end of the Raoul Peck movie, you hear Baldwin's voice, or Samuel Jackson's voice, who's reading Baldwin, say, very challenging. The last lines of it says, I know very well who I am, Baldwin saying. I know who I am. But you have created this inward, it's not Negro, right? You have created this inward, and it's up to you to decide why you need it. It's up to you to decide why you need it. That's some deep, let's go deep, explore. Let's use our meditation to figure out why. Why is it we need it? What do we do with it? Oh, that's how deep I think the problem is. Okay. So I wrote this little piece called, I don't know, years and years ago, called, I don't know, Race and Racism, New Koans for America. And I thought, koan, that's good, because a koan isn't solvable, but it's resolvable. It's not something you solve, but you can get to a point where it's resolved. So I thought, make this a koan. Sit on the cushion with it. See if you can figure it out. Because it affects everything. This is about how we see, how we perceive. So we have some tools to work on that. Take a high. So back to Floyd. So George Floyd, we watched that. And then throughout the summer, we have a rekindling of Black Lives Matter movement. So, do we remember the origins of that movement? It didn't just start with Floyd, right? It sprang up again with Floyd. That's 2020. Well, 6 years before, it had sprung up again. All of a sudden, Black Lives Matter movement again and protests. After what? After Mike Brown was shot down, shot in the back, body left in the street for 4.5 hours before anybody put a cover over it. And Ferguson went crazy. And so I don't know, but the people I knew, my family and so forth, said, wow, I didn't know Ferguson was like that. And this was about, it was as though Ferguson was this tinderbox, and it just, and that signaled to us that more had been going on and for a longer time in Ferguson than any of us knew. Because that was the light that, right? That, and then, so what, and I'm sorry, so many things at once. So we see the resurgence of Black Lives Matter and the protest again. That was Michael Brown. But then the original Black Lives Matter movement was founded before that, when 3 Black women are just texting one another. When Zimmerman is not charged with the death of Trayvon Martin. So the thing was in 2013. And what you'll note about all 3 Black victims is they were big. I mean, I mean, Trayvon, he's lanky, but he's a tall black man, you know. But then you think about Michael Brown. I thought he was a giant. I thought he was going to kill me imminently. So I shot him in the back as he was going away. Huh. You know, are we supposed to continue to believe these things? Oh, any rate, I'm talking now about how a moment becomes momentum, becomes a movement. 3 Black women texting each other when Zimmerman is acquitted. And Alicia Garza says, I love my people. I love Black people. Black Lives Matter. It took off. It went viral, as they say. 3 Black women just texting one another. Black Lives Matter. And it went viral because it touched something so deep. This is an ongoing story. This is an ongoing story. This has long been this way. Then we got these. And so I'm not good with them. Smartphone, but they have cameras. This changed things. It didn't mean there was justice, but it meant that more of us could see that what people had been saying happens, actually happens. I think lots of Black people had been saying, the police don't provide protection to us. Why should we call them? If we call them, we're liable to be killed. That's a sad state of affairs for the folk that are supposed to protect and serve. Right? But when we started seeing video clips of people running away and being shot in the back, well, we could sort of, this is the situation. These things are not made up. Now we can see a little more. So before too many things explode in my head, this is, I hope that doesn't happen also. But the Black Lives Matter movement, the signs. I'm so proud of these folk, Black Lives Matter folk. But here's the tragedy of all. Here's the tragic part. These signs state the obvious. It's so sad that they have to. Black Lives Matter. They do. They matter. Sorry for screaming that. And yet I'm old enough, so been studying 5 decades and teaching 45. I'm old enough so that I was part of a movement where people stated the obvious then too. I marched in so many marches where people carried signs, especially Black men. I think if you saw a picture, I don't know if I can get that picture handy. I don't know. I have this book here, King, and it's nice photos of Bob Edelman was a photographer. Charles Johnson wrote the commentary, and there's some incredible photographs of the civil rights movement. And on a couple of them, you see these masses of Black men carrying signs, placards that say, I am a man. Why? Because Black men since their being here have been referred to as boys. Boys. So these signs say, I'm a man. Simple. But it's the obvious, stating the obvious, like Black Lives Matter. And I wonder how many times must we go through this in this country? I'm proud of the young people. I'm proud of the mixed crowds of young people. In 1963 in Birmingham, we were all Black. Now you see Blacks and whites and Latinx and everybody, LGBTQ, trans, everybody out there marching. I love it. I love it. But each time I wonder, will this be the time when it takes, when it sticks, when it becomes a reality? We've had so many, not so many, we've had a few times when it seemed, wow, this might actually be different. I really want to talk about Civil War now, but I don't know if there's enough time for that. But really, there have been some times. W.B. Du Bois says, if you, in 1903, maybe not. I don't want to misquote that. No, I have it. When did he say it? Take a high. Yep, 1903. Well, it's the souls of Black people. I'm thinking about a talk he gave. W.B. Du Bois, I think it was later than that, maybe 2025. He asked at a conference, he said, what would we want if suddenly we became free? That's the other thing I'm thinking about. Resilience and freedom, always that. Buddhism is called liberation. But there's two truths, as you know. Absolute, all right, relative. I'm talking about the relative world we live in, with Black skins and white skins, right? The relative world we live in. He asked, if we were suddenly freed, what would you want? What would you really want in your heart of hearts? He was in Chicago. He said, would you want one of those mansions over there? Would you want the biggest car? And it was clear. What we've always wanted was something that's so intangible. Nina Simone said, I wish I knew how it would feel to be free. Woo! That's what we want to know how it feels to be full citizen of this country. We want to know how that would feel because we haven't felt it yet. 400 years here, we haven't felt that yet. Now, let me tell you, in my lifetime, watching the inauguration of Barack Obama with my 90-year-old father, that was a big moment. That was a big moment. And it's so much stuff that's deep is musical. It wasn't so much seeing that beautiful family about to inhabit the White House. Black family in the White House, people went crazy. Can't happen. It's a White House. But for me, the moment was when Riri stepped up to that microphone, and what did she sing? My country, 'tis of thee, sweet, sweet land of liberty. Whew. And we felt it for the first time in our lives. Free, equal citizens of this country. Wow, this is like church. Oh, it was, for me, it was Riri. It was Riri singing. I felt like it was my country too. Sweet land of liberty. Lord, it never meant that till now. Okay. That was a moment. Huh? Didn't last too long. Huh? Lasted 8 years. A Black man in the White House for 8 years. Who comes next? Because whenever there's a step forward, there's 2 backwards, and it's backwards at the national, the federal level. 45 comes into the White House because people couldn't stand it. Some people couldn't stand it. That Black man in the White House. Now it sounds like I'm clearly taking sides here. Hey, you got me. I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you how it feels. Yeah. For one fleeting moment, there was a feeling of freedom. Tiga. So, this is all we want, I think. It's freedom. It's to feel it. Tiga. I'm going to stop in a few minutes. Now, let's see if I can do my little Civil War history very quickly. So there's this series on TV now about Lincoln. Lincoln's all right with me. But the caption says, as it comes on, this docu-series, right? Lincoln freed the slaves, but it's more complicated than that. What? It's like, did people really not know it was more complicated than that? Oh, so the Emancipation Proclamation of January 1st, 2 important words, forever free. Lincoln, is this too much history? We don't need this. Yeah? The fun of history. Lincoln freed the slaves in the states that had seceded from the Union. He left the slaves up in the northern colony, slaves. He wasn't about abolishing slavery. He was about recruiting Black people, this was revolutionary though, into the Union Army. Woo! That was the clause. You're freed, and you're free to join the Union Army. He wanted to win, and he wanted to keep the Union together. That's noble. That's noble. Oh. You know, I've been to Montgomery, Alabama, where Jeff Davis's house, the president of the Confederacy, is right there. The state capitol is up on the hill, and the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church is on the other corner. Talk about complicated. That's Montgomery, Alabama, Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, Martin Luther King's first church. It's all in the same block. It's complicated. So that's King. So Lincoln was freeing the slaves in the states that had seceded, and with the offer of joining the Union Army, so as to defeat the Confederacy. Tiga, that's fine. Do what you have to do. He's trying to keep the Union together, no problem. It took guts to free the slaves in those states. Tiga. even though it had a dual purpose. It's all right. But then we get what are called, I can round this up. Then we get what are called the Civil War amendments to the Constitution. And the 13th Amendment, let's see if I can say this briefly. This is from a paper I wrote a long time ago, but anyway. There are 3 amendments to the US Constitution that bear directly upon Black folk. Together, they're known as the Civil War Amendments. These 3 dramatically impact Black people's lives. This is after the Civil War. The 13th Amendment was designed to, now, you know, Ava DuVernay, 13th, there's a movie about this, right? A documentary. So the 13th Amendment was designed to ensure equality for recently emancipated slaves. Equality. It banned slavery and involuntary servitude, except in the case of punishment for a crime. So Ava DuVernay says, you know, there's freedom. And then immediately, what is there? I ask my students, think, when are the first prisons? How do you get free labor? If free labor is outlawed, how do you get it? Prison industrial complex. That's how you get free labor. You have to put these things together. It's true. It's true. Nobody's denying if you just confront them with the facts. Okay. So the 13th Amendment guaranteed freedom from involuntary servitude unless you be judged to have committed a crime. A lot of Black people in jail, a lot of children in jail, convicts. Brian Stevenson talks about this because he has worked for so many young children who are given life sentences, treated as adults, given life sentences, sent to horrible places when they're too young to be counted responsible for what they've done. Brian Stevenson's Just Mercy, I highly recommend. So that the 13th was to do that, except with the exception of this other clause, if you were deemed, and in Birmingham, where I'm from. These are books I use. I developed a class called Race and Racism through a Buddhist lens. And these 2 shelves are books I use in that course. And Slavery by Another Name, the book Slavery by Another Name, begins with a description of 4 teenagers, like in 19 something. This is not right after the war. 4 teenagers in Birmingham on the street just talking to one another. They got arrested. It's like South Africa, you know, you're in a crowd, you know, that's dangerous, isn't it? Blackman's book begins with this young boy, one of these 4, who was arrested. Parents didn't know where they were. So nobody came to, you know, get them out, though people with Black folk were looking for him. This young one of them, Cottenham, dies in a mine because the sheriff could arrest you. And if nobody paid your bond, they could then lease you out. This was called convict leasing. And this Birmingham sheriff leased a couple of these young men to the mines. And some 7 or 8 years later, there was Cottenham's body. So Brian Stevenson talks about the development of slavery and then this kind of convict leasing to modern day prison industrial complex. It's enough to note that he says in the early on that 1 in 3 Black male babies will be incarcerated once in their lifetime. 1 in 3. That's too much. Got to raise those things to the ground. Any rate. So 13th Amendment was to grant freedom, except for with the exception of a crime. The 14th Amendment, which was ratified in 1868, allegedly granted citizenship and, importantly, equal protection under the law. Equal protection under the law. That's the 14th. And the 15 granted African American men and women, we know how hard we have to push, but it granted African American men the rights to vote. So all I'm going to ask you is to consider the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Are any of those a reality for Black and brown people in this country? What it would feel like to be free is to have those be true, to be facts for us. But the police doesn't protect us. Prisons are not good things. And our voting rights are whittled away at every point. Now, I'm sitting in Georgia. I can say yippee because we got 2 senators. Woo! Why? Because of Stacey Abrams' fair fight and lots of hard work, right? We got 2 Democratic senators. Black man, Jewish man, love it. But there are more than 206 actions now since the election to roll back even more voting rights, to make it harder to vote, right? Close this poll. We limit the days of, don't do that mail ballot anymore. We 206 over these states, whittling that away. The Voting Rights Act, the new one after the Civil War, was passed in 1965. And they took a new one in 2013. They looked at it again in 2013 and decided to whittle away what was there. You know, it's like you have to really watch these things. So 206 actions since this current, November 3rd election to make it more difficult for Black and brown people to vote. In 2021, in the United States of America. What you say? You have to laugh. That doesn't mean you're happy about it. But if you just think of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, you can see we are not there. We are not even close. My last comment. Dr. King, he wasn't the originator of it, but he pushed what was called the beloved community. And the beloved community would be a place where there would be justice and freedom for all. People would be valued as people. People could bring their talents, whatever talents they had, to the community. They would be respected for that and cherished for that and loved for that, and beloved community. A woman named Natasha Marin, who's an artist and a curator, curated this book rather than pictures She curated collections of sounds. And she and three other Black women went out and they asked people using a tape recorder to, this is what they say in their introduction. We planned an exhibition, I'm just about done. We planned an exhibition that would decenter whiteness and provide space for healing and validation. We agreed to collect sound from Black folks of all kinds and craving nuance over stereotype. We sought out Black children, Black youth, LGBTQ, plus Black folks, unsheltered Black folks, incarcerated Black folks, neurodivergent Black folks, as well as differently able Black folks. We asked them three things. What is your origin story? How do you heal yourself? And describe or imagine a world where you are loved, safe, and valued. And these are the responses. There are responses from 7-year-old kids here. What would the world be like? And I suggest to you, it's a good description of King's beloved community. So one woman from Seattle writes this. Well, when I wake up, there is someone there who loves me. When I leave my home, the people living on my street know my name, know my parents' names, claim me as their own, drop by with soup when I'm sick, and small gifts during holidays. And I do the same for them. We break bread together. We laugh and dance and work and build together. Wherever I go, I'm known and I know others. We greet each other with smiles and hugs. Our expressions are always genuine. We don't hide resentments between clenched teeth or anger in clenched fists. We say the words that need saying. We speak and listen and forgive and understand. We are peaceful in our hearts and actions, and our peace is never built on the sacrifice of another's peace. Our community is not built on the suffering of others. We live in balance, never taking more than we need. And each of us are honored, I think, and valued and respected as equal members of a collective, irrespective of age, ability, ethnicity, gender, or any other political descriptor. We bring all of who we are. Thought that was a nice response. What would the world be like if you felt safe, if you felt valued? You know, her things, if you felt loved. Woo! Thank you. Thank you so much. Now I hope we can do some Q&A. Take a breather, take a moment.
The chat feature is disabled today, and we apologize for that. So if you have a question, just please raise your hand, and I'll try and take them in order to Dr. Willis. Go ahead, Heather. You're first.
Thank you, and thank you so much for making time. This is such an honor to have some space with you. My question comes about from my own experience of a few years ago. I was hired as a consultant to help with projects on the school to prison pipeline and creating a nonprofit that increased the number of educators of color in Denver classrooms. And it was the first time in my life where all of my colleagues were Black women. And so for this white woman, I had at least three Black women texting, setting me straight pretty quickly on my tendency to walk in the room and try to fix everything and tell people what to do. And it was an incredibly powerful learning experience for me. And as I liken it a lot to my Buddhist path, my race consciousness path has just been a series of awakenings in which I've had to have the courage to make lots of mistakes and try to proceed with compassion and kindness. And one thing I have struggled with is when I try to take what I have learned into Buddhist communities of mostly white people, I have found that there seems to be, this is a very judgmental framing, and I apologize in advance, but I can experience it as apathy that's couched as spiritual superiority, that the people in the streets, the people that are getting angry, they need to find, passivity within themselves. That's not what we do. Activism is for something else. And I don't know quite how to respond to all of that. So I'd be grateful for some thoughts and guidance on how you do that. I think maybe you're muted still, maybe.
I said,
Dr. Willis, you're muted. I'm so sorry.
okay. Thank you. Some awakenings. Oh, yeah. Well, I didn't get to the third part of my paper, which was Buddhism and Activism. So, excuse me. You see, I have this idea that Buddhism from the time the Buddha stood up from the Bodhi tree became engaged. So it was active. Because the Buddha thought, I came here for a reason. I got to share this teaching, right? And my nutshell for what the teaching is Dhammapada 183. Do no harm, practice virtue, discipline the mind. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas. Nonviolence, doing good, disciplining the mind so we can do the first two. It takes practice to do those first two. Non-harm, somebody makes you angry and you kill them 1,000 times before you can even get close to them, in your mind, because your mind is fast. And then karma, we need to, But I saw that teaching, non-harm, practicing good, disciplining the mind, in King when I was little. We couldn't march. We didn't have cars. The buses came, they got us from the school, took us downtown. We marched up to the 16th Street Baptist Church where the ladies came in and decided whether or not we could go march that day. You ready to march, Jan? Well, if you were sort of calm and cool, yeah. You ready to march, John? Yes, ma'am, I'm ready. No, John, I think you got to sit over there and do your Sunday school lesson. That'd be better. Because if you were going to march for King, you had to be cool and calm. If you reared your hands back, you couldn't march anymore. And we had to sign an agreement that talked about that. But none of that means that we don't resist. It's just that the resistance is nonviolent. Some people get that, that means you're all passive. No, it doesn't mean that. Man, the Buddha did revolutionary things. 6th century BC India. He took people from all the 4 castes. That's such a no-no in Aryan civilization. Horrors. And then he admitted women. Horrors. What his vision was revolutionary and called for transformations of society. Aryan society didn't operate that way. But he founded this new community, sort of like beloved community, it's sort of like that. It went against everything Aryan society was for. But what did Dr. King say? What's the most urgent question we should have every day of our waking life? What are you doing for others? That should be what motivates us. Tika, you can't be good just by yourself. I'm over here being good. How you doing? So ours is to figure out what we can do to change things for the better. Activism is, whether you're talking about letter writing campaigns or protests or learn how to organize. Alicia Garza, just the one who started Black Lives Matter. I mean, there were 3 of them, but she's the one that wrote that love letter to America saying Black Lives Matter. Oh, she's just come out with a book called The Purpose of Power. Read that. It's a memoir, but it's about organizing, like Stacey Abrams. You know, if you ever read Stacey Abrams stuff, you just, here's good advice. It's not answering your question exactly, Heather, but I'm thinking, while you have a chance, I think in our community, we need to know more about organizing. We need to know more about those kind of skills. So I'm glad that, Heather, you've had some training in this. We need to know more. That's a skill, it's a necessary one, makes positive change. So Alicia Garza says, heck, we're beyond wanting a seat at the table. We want to play in the menu. I thought, raisins. I loved it. You get it? Enough, we want a seat at the table. We want at least help, doggone it, plan the menu. Alicia Garza, I love it. So read her, The Purpose of Power. And Stacey Abrams says, if you sit down with a group of people, and the first thing is, so glad you're there, bring a listening mind. I've seen happen so often in Asia. Westerners go, Western women. And the first thing they want to teach Ladakhi nuns is about hygiene. This is what you need to know about how to brush those teeth. And I'm going, go to listen first. What is it they need? Then help them with that if you came to help, Otherwise, you didn't come to help. You came to enforce your thing. Like, we've done that long enough, right? So go with a listening mind, Tikaha. And Stacey Abrams says, then once you're there, don't worry about taking sides. Just pull out your paper and pen and take stock. What is needed? How do we get to what is needed? Who's going to do what? Those 3 things she said, that's the extent of your meeting, Don't take sides, take stock and get to work. I love that. Now I'm going to show you this. I hope you can make it out. I wrote a piece 7 years ago about Shantideva, those exercises, and they found this graphic. I don't know where they found it, but I thought, perfect. Can you see it? I'm sure the Buddha would have that sign. Why not? Black Lives Matter. Tikaha. I don't know if I answered Heather, but I'm happy to have this exchange.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Dr. Willis, TH has a question.
Okay.
Hi, Dr. Willis. Thank you very much. Venerable Katie Cole mentioned that you studied under Lama Yeshe. So I was wondering if you ever had talks of racism with him. What were his thoughts? And also, you put it in the course summary, or somebody put it in today's summary for today's class. Could you talk more about anger, and if there is a role in anger that helps us to work on our mind more, but also allow us to engage and help to bring about more equality in the world? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, TH. Anger is a question that always comes up. shouldn't I be angry about this stuff? And like, Buddhism seems to say, don't be angry. Now, here's the thing. We know about righteous anger. We know that some things catch your attention and you just become enraged about it. Then you decide you want to do something about it. Then drop the anger. Because if you want to do something about it, the anger will not help you at that point. Oh, this is really important, I think, to get. I'm always torn on this question because I agree with Shantideva. And Shantideva says, chapter 6, first 2 verses, all the benefit that practicing virtue for 1,000 aeons can be totally destroyed in a moment of anger. Now, when His Holiness has been giving talks, giving commentary on this verse, this is what makes sense to me. There needs to be another word for anger because the way Buddhists use it, anger is only a destructive force. So the Buddhism nutshell, do no harm, anger is only a destructive force. It's only to harm. That's why peace activists, people who want to be in things for the long haul, they have to do it without anger. Anger is destructive of others as well as oneself. It's a destructive force. So we need a better word. You know, you were outraged by and then you decided you would do something. Then do something. And do something out of compassion. Switch. It's necessary to switch then and let love and compassion fuel your struggle. Oh, I took Lama Yeshe to hear Angela Davis. He was visiting Santa Cruz. I was teaching there. And the next year, Lama Yeshe told me he wanted to have the university expel Wentz. Could I help him? And things just came together. So yeah, I got this offer to visit Wesleyan, and Lama Yeshe and the chancellor of UC Santa Cruz had similar heart conditions. They bonded the moment they met, talking about their heart conditions. And even though Lama didn't have a green card and it was just impossible for him to work, he became the substitute teacher for my course at UC Santa Cruz, and I went off to Wesleyan. Well, but the time before that, when he was there at giving teachings at Yucca Valley, and not Yucca Valley, but Grizzly Lodge. Anyway, he was there and Angela Davis came and gave a talk in the amphitheater, outside theater there in the forest at Santa Cruz. And I took Lama Yeshe to it. And throughout her talk, she talked, she would remind the students that every bit of furniture in that place had been built by prison labor. They should keep that in mind, right? She was doing her thing. And Lama Yeshe kept doing this. Everybody should be strong like this lady. Everybody should be strong like this lady. He loved her. He absolutely loved her. So one can be very committed to the struggle, right? We just need a better word for it. Maybe you say Angela Davis is angry all the time, but I don't think she is. But, right? But you have to make the scope of who you're trying to help bigger. And I think love and compassion works better for that. Better to say, I want these people not to suffer than to say, I want these people to suffer. You see the difference? It's better to say, I want these people not to suffer. That's compassion. Than to say, I want these people to suffer. That's anger. I don't know, TH. Am I being clear? I can't tell.
Yes, I haven't listened to this, but I came across somebody did an interview with the Dalai Lama where they
Uh-huh.
asked if there was ever positive anger. And
Uh-huh.
I didn't buy this interview. So I don't know,
Okay.
but the summary of it said that the Dalai Lama said that there is a positive anger that's rooted in compassion, like you're saying, that, that jives with reality, that we're all interconnected. And then there's the destructive anger. I'd never heard that before because,
Right.
as you said, anger is just another delusion that we're trying to uproot. So I wanted to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Okay. Anger is only destructive. There's nothing Buddhist about that. That's why I'm saying maybe we need another word, but that I hope I've tried to make clear.
Yes, thank you.
Otherwise, we run out. I was talking to a group in Oakland, and this young man said, that doesn't hold anything for me. He said, people came into my village, military came to my village, shot everybody. I got away, and I want to kill everyone I see. He said, now what does your Buddhism have for me? I thought, oh shoot, this is a tough one. And then a woman standing behind me said, better to fuel your struggle with love, she said. I said, oh my goodness, thank you so much. Oh, Thich Nhat Hanh asked the members of his youth for social services, that group he founded, the Order of Inner Being. He said, you have to promise to take one day off to rejuvenate so that you can keep to this nonviolent way. Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh was about acting. But anger and greed and those other emotions cloud clarity. And you need clarity to make change that's effective. Thich Nhat Hanh. Last thing I'll say is what I tried to say to Heather. Being Pacific with the C, Pacific, is not being passive, Passive, right? It's non-violent resistance. It's not killing, but you're gonna make a change. If it means push against you, gonna push against you without hating you. Gonna push against you to stop you. Take a high. I think that's the best I can do. Okay. All right. Almost out of time. Any other questions?
Paula, are there any Facebook questions?
One second. I know there are no questions from Facebook. Does anybody else have a question? Oh, MJ Whiteman, go ahead and unmute yourself and please ask.
Oh, thank you. This has been incredible. Thank you so much. How do we have more being in touch with you? Yes, more. Sorry.
Professor, kindly unmute yourself. Thank you.
All right. So my email address. Oh, you're so sweet, MJ. My email address is jwillis, JWILLIS, at Agnes Scott. You have to be sure about the two S's. AGNESSOTT.edu. jwillis@agnescott.edu. Okay.
Thank you
Love to hear
thank you
from you.
so much. Mm.
Thank you.
Looks like
Linda?
Space has a question.
Who?
Hey, can you hear me? They have me down as Linda, but I'm Space.
Oh, okay. Yes, Linda. Yes. I was
I-
Space. You're
Space.
okay.
Okay, I had her leave. I just want to thank you so much. I'm one of those white people that went down to Mississippi 64, 65. And
Uh-huh. Good on you.
yeah,
Good on you.
changed my life. So thank you so much. It's just, oh, I loved every second of you.
Oh my goodness. Thank
I don't
you.
know- I don't know. I do things without anger, but like in Mississippi, I had fantasies of bombing the courthouse.
Hmm.
You know, it didn't come out. We couldn't, you know, I was with Fannie Lou Hamer, you know.
All right. Good on you.
Yeah, I had a blessed life.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So,
But yeah, so anger. Mm-hmm. But
so it's
okay.
like I had a fantasy about 45. I wished I could kill him.
You know, the good people seem to go, but at any rate, I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, you wonder sometimes. But I came into a room behind my good buddies visiting their folks. Hey, I didn't know you were coming down. And then I walked in, silence. I wanted to kill everybody in that room.
Yeah.
Because nobody else should have to feel that way, right? Just because they were Black, right? Didn't know me. Okay. I went home, tortured, flew home, tortured for 3 days. I was so furious, right? Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't walk out, couldn't, just, it was so painful. They probably didn't know.
No.
It's like that anger hurts you, the one who's angry. That's all. I've experienced that.
Sure.
Just rage and fury didn't change a thing in the world, just made me miserable. I've got to find a more effective strategy. That's all. I don't mean that you can switch like that. But I do think practice is good. And I know you know about that. And King said, it has to be more than a knee-jerk reaction. We have to have an attitude if we're going to be out here marching. It has to be part of who we are.
Yeah.
This nonviolence. If we're going to make a difference. Otherwise, we'll burn out. We'll burn ourselves up and nothing will change. So it's sort of our own secret strategy. It's our secret sauce, I'm in it for the long haul, right? King said, it's a good thing Jesus didn't say we had to like these folk. Right? Jesus said we have to love them. He didn't say we have to like them. King said, and it was a good thing.
Yeah, and people change. I mean, we had a reunion and the police chief.
No.
2001, yeah, Sunflower County. And the police chief of Ruleville was a Black woman. Or the mayor, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. I wish we didn't have to keep going through it over and over. But each new generation discovers, it's like teaching, it's better to let the student discover that new insight than to tell them. They need to discover it. So yeah, I just watch and think that's good. I think the struggle's more diverse. Certainly Black Lives Matter movement is more diverse. And I think its analysis is more inclusive, more widespread. Intersectionality is there. So, there's more things going on. I just hope for a time when it takes, doggone it.
I thought it was going to take in the 70s.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
But
got-
we move forward,
Sure.
We marched in 63 and 64, the Civil Rights Act was passed. 65, the Voting Rights Act.
Yeah.
So now they come along and gut it again, but what did Angela Davis say? Freedom is a constant struggle. A constant struggle.
I think Fanning Lou said that too.
I'm sure she didn't create it yet. Well, it's just been a pleasure. So happy to be here
Yeah.
with you all.
Well, good things we get out of the pandemic, Zoom.
Yeah,
How could I have heard you otherwise?
I guess there's some good parts, but you didn't see me sweating when nobody came on.
Oh,
I was here for like a few minutes before anybody, and I was panicked. I'm not good with this stuff. But at any rate, as you say, there's some good things come out of it. Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Professor Willis. What an incredible talk. We're all inspired, and we look forward to inviting you again in the future. So thank you so much. Really.
On everyone, Heather. Linda, what is your name? What is your name?
Space, you're muted.
it's space.
Space. Akasha, now I've seen it. Okay, lovely.
It's SPES, it's Latin for hope.
Oh,
There was a
okay.
lot of Lindas in the 50s in classrooms, so some of us
Wonderful.
changed our names.
A pleasure. All right. I hope that everyone keeps safe, that everyone keeps healthy, and maybe we're going to make it through this, Hope is better than its opposite. So
Mm.
great to see you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
so much,